It was past midnight when the whispers began again, soft, unintelligible, like someone speaking just behind the wall, murmuring secrets to the dark. But the apartment on the third floor had no adjoining wall on that side, only a fire escape. Evelyn lay wide-eyed on the mattress she shared with her 4-year-old daughter, Lana. The child stirred beside her, fingers curled tightly around the edge of a frayed blanket. The summer heat pressed against the walls, but a chill lingered near the window, unnatural, sharp, still. She sat up, eyes scanning the room lit only by the yellow street lamp seeping through the curtains. Nothing moved. But the whisper, no, more like a sigh now, continued. Evelyn was not a woman given to fear. Life had already tested her enough. Abandoned by her husband when Lana was just a baby, she'd learned to fight quietly. One ad agency job at a time, one unpaid rent notice at a time, one missed meal at a time. But these nights, they were starting to feel different. The first time it happened, she thought it was the pipes. The second time, perhaps a neighbor's TV through the walls. But this voice seemed to know her. 3 nights ago, she had dreamt of a woman crying in a forest, a distant, hoarse wail that echoed through tall trees under a sky choked with mist. The woman had long, tangled hair, blood-streaked feet, and a hospital gown. That morning, Lana had drawn something on the back of a cereal box. A road with a cracked stone marked 33, surrounded by trees with red-tipped leaves.
"Where did you see this?" Evelyn had asked, trying to sound playful. Lana, without lifting her head, replied, "She showed me in the dream. She said you'll remember soon." Evelyn didn't sleep the next night. That Friday, just after sunset, Evelyn received a letter. No stamp, no return address, slipped under her door, wedged between the daily newspaper and an electricity bill. Inside was a faded black and white photograph, curled at the edges. It showed a cracked rural road, shrouded in fog and trees. A crooked milestone stood to the left, 33, smeared slightly but still legible. On the back of the photo, someone had scrawled in pencil, "It begins here. She waits." Below the message was what looked like a hospital tag or an ID band, but the name had been scratched out, violently, almost obsessively. That night, Evelyn couldn't breathe. She sat outside on the building's shared balcony, chain-smoking the last 2 cigarettes from a crumpled packet. Her eyes burned from sleeplessness. The city was loud as always, horns, barking dogs, late-night kitchen clatter. But the sound around her felt far away, as if muffled. From behind, a small hand tugged her shirt. "I'm cold," Lana said. "There's someone in the window." Evelyn's heart paused. She glanced back into the apartment. The window behind the kitchen was shut, curtains unmoved. No light. "Did you see someone?" The little girl nodded, then shook her head. She was crying, and then she looked at me like she knew me. She said, "Your name."
Evelyn stared at her daughter.
What name did she say?
Lana looked confused for a moment, then replied in a tone too calm, almost detached.
Not the name you use now. The one from before.
A chill went down Evelyn's spine. She hadn't used her birth name, Emily, in over 20 years. She had changed it legally when she turned 18. She had her reasons she had buried. But now, something had dug them up. Later that week, Evelyn visited an old relative. Her mother's sister, Molly, now in her late 70s, lived in a care home on the city's outskirts. Evelyn hadn't spoken to her in over a decade, but something inside urged her to go. Molly's mind was no longer whole. She spoke to empty chairs, laughed at her own shadow, and sometimes cried when music played. But when Evelyn placed the photo of the road in front of her, the old woman went silent. Her fingers trembled. Her eyes locked onto the milestone. "She followed you home, didn't she?" Evelyn tried to ask who the woman was, but Molly only said one more thing before retreating into muttering nonsense. "She screamed in the dark when they took her baby, and the forest heard her. The trees remember." That evening, back at the apartment, the lights began to flicker.
Lana had fallen asleep early, clutching a crayon drawing, a woman with a bleeding mouth and hollow eyes. Evelyn stared at her own reflection in the window. Behind her, the living room seemed to ripple, just slightly, like heat over asphalt. The air felt thick. Then the whisper returned. This time, it was clearer. A woman's voice, calling from nowhere, calling from everywhere. And then the lights went out.
And just like that, from nowhere, the rain began. Without warning, not a heavy downpour, but a slow, persistent drizzle, like the sky was weeping silently for something long forgotten. Evelyn stood near her window, watching the droplets slide down the glass. The whispers hadn't returned since last night's blackout, but silence can often be more unsettling than noise. The photo of the 33rd milestone lay on the kitchen counter, wrinkled and damp from the night's sweat. She hadn't told anyone about it, not even Monica, her colleague and closest friend. How do you explain something that doesn't make sense, even in your own mind? How do you say, "I think someone or something is trying to reach me from a place I don't remember, or worse, from a place I've tried very hard to forget"? Evelyn's search began at a government archive. She had taken a day off under the excuse of a doctor's appointment. Lana was with a neighbor for a few hours. What she was looking for, she wasn't exactly sure, but she remembered the scratched-out name tag on the back of the photo. Hospitals keep records, even abandoned ones. She knew the forest in the image wasn't far, somewhere along the old highways past the town where she had once lived as a child.
The archivist was reluctant, unhelpful, but money moves bureaucracy. She found an entry. A private mental institution called Silver Grove Asylum for Women, established 1961, shut down in the late 90s after a fire. The address? Near the 33rd milestone on N42. The same road in the photo. That night, Lana woke, screaming. Evelyn rushed in to find her daughter clawing at the air as if trying to stop something from crawling over her. "She was here," Lana sobbed. "The woman from the forest. She said my name." Evelyn held her tightly, trying to soothe her, but she couldn't ignore what her daughter said next. She asked, "If I'm yours or hers?" Lana's voice trembled. She said she used to sing me lullabies, but no one listened to her cries.
The next day, Evelyn searched forums online, fringe places not indexed by regular browsers, urban legend blogs, paranormal discussion boards. And that's where she found it. A thread titled "The 33rd Milestone, Widow's Throat." Hundreds of users had posted about the same forest road. A few said they visited out of curiosity and heard screams from nowhere. Some claimed their electronics stopped working past the milestone. But one post chilled her to the bone. It read, "Cross the 33rd stone after midnight, and the forest follows you back. It doesn't matter how far you run. She walks barefoot behind you, humming lullabies for the child she never held." The user had gone inactive 2 years ago. The account had only one post.
By the time Evelyn put Lana to sleep that night, the rain had returned. The house was silent, but the silence wasn't peaceful. It was loaded, like a breath being held just before a scream. At around 2 a.m., a sound echoed through the apartment. Not a knock, a dragging sound, something scraping across the living room tiles. Evelyn stepped out of the bedroom with a flashlight. It flickered once, then twice, before stabilizing. And then she saw it. A photo placed carefully on the floor beneath the window. It was old, curled, and half-burnt at the corners. It was her own face, a passport-size picture from a decade ago. Eyes gouged out with black ink. Beneath it, written in red crayon, were the words, "You are not hers." Evelyn staggered back. From Lana's room, a lullaby began. Soft, crooked, off-key. The same tune her own mother used to hum, or at least the woman she thought was her mother. The next morning, Evelyn stood at the edge of her world. Literally. She had packed a small backpack, left Lana with Monica under the lie of a 2-day office trip. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she knew where to go. The highway stretched long before her, cracked, faded from years of neglect. And after nearly 3 hours of travel, there it was, the 33rd milestone. Old, crumbling, partially sunken into the wet earth.
Just beyond it, the forest thickened. Trees leaned inwards, like they were trying to hide something. Fog hung in the air like breath held too long. No signs, no paths, just a presence. She stepped forward, one step into memory, one step into a truth she didn't know she'd buried. The forest didn't resist. It welcomed her with open arms.